Well, 2012, Darren, has definitely been an interesting year. We've had more calls than ever about Roundup-resistant weeds. How are we going to stop them going into 2013?
Well, nobody likes to hear my strategy, Brian, but my strategy is you got to hit them about 4 times. If you hit them about 4 times with different things, you will actually kill them. And you say, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to drive through my field 4 times. Yeah, you are. You're going to go out there before the crop is even planted. Using pre-emerge or pre-plant incorporated type products, it's a fantastic way to control a lot of those weeds that are tough for Roundup to kill.
Yep, but here's the whole thing. A lot of times in the spring, we get anxious as farmers. We want to get the crop in the ground. Okay, things are finally fit and we say, we gotta go, I gotta get this crop in the ground because I know that early planting makes me money. So put the crop in, and that's when my phone starts ringing. Guys say, well, my crop's all in, now what do? I say, okay, well, what did you do before you planted the crop? Well, nothing, because I planted the crop first.
Well, I understand getting excited about planting, and you know what? It makes a lot of sense to try and get your crop in when things are fit. Hey, it's time to go. I agree with that 100%. Yep. The problem is about 2 weeks before that is when you should have been putting on your pre's. When you have some days that, hey, you know what? It's a pretty nice day out, but it's still not April yet. I can't be planting my corn yet in my part of the world. Well, that's the time you put those pre's out. Get them out there. Give them some time to get some moisture and get them down into the ground and get them working for you.
So the reason why we're talking about this today, even though it's months and months away, is you've got to plan ahead and you've got to have it in your mind that, hey, no matter what, I'm going to get that pre-emerge herbicide on. Because I can tell you right now, the farmers that had the pre's on, they didn't have nearly the problem with Roundup resistant weeds than the farmers that didn't get the pre on. So you've got to be thinking about this ahead. This might mean buying an extra sprayer. This might mean hiring somebody else on the farm. This might mean training your brother on how to actually run a sprayer or something like that. So you've got to plan ahead.
Here's the thing, Brian, and I don't care how fast you want to run your planter. I can run a sprayer a lot faster than that. You can spray so many acres in a day. It's crazy, especially when you're talking about, hey, nothing's up. We're just talking about spraying on bare dirt or just a few weeds out there. There's no crop, so we don't have to worry about a lot of the things that we worry about in crop, about getting the timing just right. You can be out there spraying, on most days when you're putting those pre's out there.
Yep, but here's the thing. If you're in conventional till, which more than half the farmers in our country are, you should be putting this stuff on when you're going out field cultivating. Probably not disking, but field cultivating or doing some light tillage in the spring. And that means you need to get saddle tanks for your tractor. That means you've got to set your field cultivator, or whatever it is you're using for a tillage tool, you got to set that up with what we call a disc kit. It's got to have spray nozzles on there. You've got to get prepared.
You can do 2 jobs at once.
Right, so when you're going around to all these farm shows this summer, we want you looking at equipment and looking at, okay, how can I best do this for my farm? What do I need for spray controls for that particular tractor? And all these things, you gotta plan ahead and get ready to go and have that all mapped out for, hey, this is the way it's gonna work on my farm this coming spring.
All right. We're gonna talk about new soybean traits in a little bit, Brian, but I'm just gonna tell you right now, if you're counting on a trait to solve all these problems for you, forget it. You're absolutely wrong. I've been looking at all the new traits that are coming for corn, for soybeans, for years. I mean, we're able to see stuff that's 5 or 10 years down the road because they've already got it out in plots doing the research work on it. Nothing out there is going to be as good an answer as what RoundupReady was for our crop production.
But even if it was, Darren, there are no new traits coming in 2013 that I know of for soybeans. Could there be something for corn? Yes. But is it going to be anything dramatic? No. So the point is, Roundup resistant weeds are spreading, and they're spreading quickly across the country. Even in the Dakotas now, in Minnesota, this far north, we're seeing lots of Roundup resistant weeds everywhere. So here are the best ways, in our opinion, to get great control out of your pre-emerge herbicide. Number 1 is do light tillage. So you either spray it on first or put it on right with the field cultivator early in the spring. If you lightly incorporate it, now your chemistry is in the ground where it needs to be, and it takes a lot less soil moisture to get active. Number 2, if you can't do that, I'd spray early, 2 to 4 weeks prior to planting. That allows you to get more rain on that pre-emerge herbicide. Number 3, and the one that I don't like that well, is spraying after I've planted the crop. The reason why I don't like it that well is now you've got to have rain to get it into the ground. You got to have more moisture to get it into the plant, and it just takes a lot of rainfall. Well, you might get that, but if you're in a drier area of the country, you might not. And we want you to get the best control out of your pre-emerge herbicide every time, not just some of the time.
Well, okay, here's some great advice that I heard this year. I was touring at North Carolina State University's Roundup resistant weed plots, and we were looking at some of the new technologies that are coming. And one of the guys there said, you know what we have to do? The only way we can make this system work is we have to plant into an activated residual herbicide field. So we have to have a field where we know for sure that we've got the pre on and we've had at least a ½ inch or an inch of rain to try and get that stuff down in the soil and get it working. If we haven't had any rain yet and we have the pre out, we aren't gonna plant yet. We're gonna wait till we get a rain, then we're going to plant. And I thought that was pretty interesting because a lot of guys have just been taking a chance and saying, you know what, it's time to go. I'll just plant and worry about weeds later. You just can't do that if you're in an area that has a lot of Roundup resistant weeds.
Well, I guess my final point with all this pre-emerge herbicide thing is the pre-emerge herbicide works a lot better if you've got everything down to ground zero. I mean, you've got everything burned down ahead of time. So what I'm saying is for all of you who are in strip till and no till, you put this pre on. Well, a lot of the pre's don't have burn down activity. You've got to make sure that you've got all the weeds that are already up completely under control as well. So don't forget about the burn down besides the residual.
We're talking about all these weeds, Brian, but what if you've got our weed of the week? Can you identify this week's weed?